there. Welcome into Fantasy Baseball today on Thursday, June 20th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White and Chris Towers. Today on the show, we had two big pitching returns, 4 pitching duels, hitting questions, rankings, risers, and fallers. I told these guys beforehand, I always jam-pack the rundown. I legitimately think we can do a 3-hour podcast with how much stuff I have on the rundown today, but we're going to fit it all into an hour somehow, some way.
Some people would like us to do a 3-hour podcast.
Yeah, I shouldn't have even presented that as like a possibility in people's minds, because now we're going to get emails. Come on, petition for 3-hour podcast. As much as we'd love to do it, it is a lot of work. All right.
No, I would not love to do a 3-hour podcast every night. I want to put that out there. That would not be great.
Our completion rate on that podcast would probably be like 10%.
That is too much for a 5-day-a-week podcast.
What if we did 2 3-hour podcasts per week?
I still got to write a 3,000-word newsletter after this.
All right, let's start with the big news from Wednesday. Kyle Bradish underwent Tommy John surgery with an internal brace, and he was first diagnosed with a partial UCL tear in his elbow back in February, but returned, actually pitched really well in 8 starts, but then the injury resurfaced, and their GM, Mike Elias, said he expects Kyle Bradish to miss 12 to 18 months, which means we might not even see him in 2025 either. I don't think there's immediate urgency for the Orioles to try and acquire another pitcher. They have 5 in their rotation right now: Burns, Grayson Rodriguez, Cole Irvin, Cade Povich, Albert Suarez. We'll talk about Povich in just a little bit, but it wouldn't surprise me if they make a trade at some point. Who that might be, I don't know. Jesus Luzardo, Eric Fedde. Does anyone else come to mind? I feel like those are the 2 easiest options to trade for right now.
You said Crochet and Fedde?
No, I said Fedde and Luzardo. I guess
Crochet's out there.
Yeah, I think Crochet would make a lot of sense, given cost and service time remaining. But yeah, Luzardo and Fedde, all of those guys would benefit from a move to Baltimore, given it's a great home park and a fantastic situation backing them up. Luzardo, I would prefer, Luzardo's better than Eric Fedde, I think. I wish I felt more confident in saying that. I'm sure we all do. But yeah, it seems likely that this is a team that will trade for a starting pitcher. I would be surprised if Corbin Burns was it, given that they had, that was before the season, but they've lost 3 guys to Tommy John surgery this season, right?
That sounds right. If not Tommy John, at least some type of elbow surgery. So
yeah, Wells, Means, and Bradish.
Yep, that's exactly right.
So yeah, and Kramer's on the IL right now. So yeah, they could definitely use another starting pitcher.
I forgot about Kramer. So yeah, they do have him coming back at some point. Anything to add on Kyle Bradish? There's nothing for this season, but from a dynasty or keeper perspective, this is about as bad as it gets, because we basically miss out on this year and probably all of next year too.
Yeah. It's a bummer. Obviously, he was pitching really well, and especially well considering his elbow wasn't right. So disappointing, not entirely surprising. Even when he came back and was pitching well, we were a little restrained in our enthusiasm for him, because it seemed like something like this could happen.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to be almost 30 next time we see him.
Yeah, it's weird that Bradish is like a weird old guy. Someone you wouldn't expect to be he's not old, but just based on how long he's been in the majors, it feels like he should be younger than he actually is. All right, that's the big news from the day. Kyle Bradish out for the season, Tommy John, and internal brace procedure. Let's get into the rest of Wednesday's action.
Can you believe it? Wow!
All right, Chris, you are up first. Player of the night.
Yeah, let's go with Hunter Greene, who in a lot of ways has taken the leap that a lot of people have been hoping he would since he made his debut. And I feel like it hasn't really gotten the attention that it deserves. And part of that is because it's been very up and down. But the thing for Hunter Greene, especially lately, he had a couple of poor starts at the beginning of June. But if you remember, it was like one bad inning in each, and he still ended up going 6 innings. He's actually managed to be pretty efficient this season, pitching deep into games pretty regularly. And a big part of that is just significant improvements in the quality of contact that he's allowing. Only 4 hard hit balls in this one. He has some of the best quality of contact numbers in the entire majors this season. 313 expected WOBA on contact for Hunter Greene. That's top 7% in baseball. 197 expected BA. 319 X slug. This is a guy whose biggest problem has been the long ball, and really hasn't been an issue for him for the most part this season. So I don't know. I've been very encouraged by what we've seen from Hunter Greene, but I feel like there hasn't been, at least before this start, much excitement around him. Where are you guys at on Hunter Greene?
Well, I think the reason there hasn't been much excitement about it is because there's so many alternatives at starting pitcher. I mean, relative to the fantasy relevant pitching crop, his numbers don't really stand out that much.
No, that's fair.
But I agree. I'm encouraged by what he's doing. It's just, you know, a drop in the ocean, sort of.
And to be fair, his strikeout rate has gone down to 26% this season. Walk rate up slightly coming into this start. I would bet after tonight, it's probably right around where it's been. So it mostly has come from his fastball, especially being much better on quality of contact. But I think that's a noisy stat.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you'll take that trade-off though, right? I mean, like you were about to say, it's not necessarily sticky, something that we can depend on happening, but we've seen that basically across baseball. Guys trading off strikeouts for better quality of contact, however they're doing it. And Hunter Greene is just another example. So
And one thing we're starting to see from him is a little more usage of that splitter. Remember, he added a splitter in the offseason, and early on, he basically didn't throw it. He had added this curveball and splitter. The curveball remains very much a show me pitch. He throws it 3 or 4 times a game most of the time. But the splitter has been above 10% usage now 5 straight starts. And this was a guy in Hunter Greene who really was just a 2-pitch pitcher his first 2 seasons. He threw his changeup about 5% of the time each of the first 2 seasons. That splitter looks good. It looks the part. And I don't know. I think we might be sneakily seeing a little bit of a Hunter Greene breakout here.
Yeah, I think the arrow is pointing up on Hunter Greene. He's just inside my top 40 starting pitchers. And I'm kind of buying what's happening right now with Hunter Greene. Scott, let's go over to you for your player of the night.
Well, I'm going to do somebody you didn't have on the rundown, and that's why I decided to pick him, because I think it's worth talking about Cade Povich.
One of 100 players I didn't have on the
Yeah, it's a little weird to talk about him before we talk about his opponent, Garrett Cole, but whatever. Cade Povich at the Yankees. He was following up a great start against the Braves, remember? A start that made us wonder, maybe there is something here. The Braves last time, 6 shutout innings, 6 strikeouts, 14 whiffs on 89 pitches. Well, he kind of looked more like the Cade Povich from his first start in this turn at the Yankees. It was a tough opponent, I'll give him that. And, he allowed 1 hit in 4 1/3 innings, but he also walked 5. He struck out only 1. That's the most concerning part. He got 4 swinging strikes on 94 pitches, all of them on the fastball. So the curveball that was responsible for 6 swinging strikes got 0 this time, even though he was throwing it 23% of the time. He was also back to throwing just 59% of his pitches for strikes versus the 71% of the time he threw against the Braves in his last start. So I'm not saying there's no talent here, but there's a lot of flaws. It's not a very good fastball. He doesn't throw enough strikes in general. And I think his success in that start against the Braves was more just him if lining up against a lineup that matching up against a lineup that happened to be in a really bad state, really struggling offensively at the time, and he took advantage. But I don't think Cade Povich is so much worth our time right now in fantasy, especially given all of the great pitching alternatives.
The thing that's been surprising for him, when I was reading the scouting reports when he got called up, one thing that really stood out was he has good swing and miss pitches. He has a hard time generating chase. And that was the issue today, certainly. And I think this was his third start. I think in 2 out of the 3 starts, that's been an issue for him. He only had a 20% out of zone swing rate today. And the other thing that's surprising, though, is a lot of the scouting reports talked about his changeup being this really, really good pitch. And he just hasn't thrown it very much. 11.6% of the time entering today. He only threw 8 of them on 94 pitches. I was pretty iffy on Cade Povich when he got called up. I didn't really see a lot to get excited about in the profile and then reading the scouting reports. But a part of why I remain pretty low on him is just this looks like the downside of a lot of the scouting reports that I was reading, where he just, for one reason or another, just can't generate whiffs on his breaking pitches outside of the strike zone because he just doesn't generate a lot of chases. It's kind of like Bryce Miller, obviously a very different overall profile, but a similar problem in that Bryce Miller just doesn't generate swings with his secondaries.
Would you guys be all right dropping Povich for a rookie counterpart, Spencer Schwellenbach, who had a great start yesterday?
Yeah. And I would have preferred Schwellenbach even before the start for Povich, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
All right, player of the night for me is going to be Tanner Bibee, who was amazing against the Mariners. 6 shutout innings, 3 hits, 1 walk, 12 strikeouts, had 20 whiffs on 93 pitches, 8 on the slider, 5 on the fastball, 5 on the curve, which kind of came out of nowhere, and 2 on the changeup. And he threw that curveball more in this start. 22% usage. It was only 7% entering this start, and it was different. The curve velocity was up nearly 2 miles per hour. According to StatCast, it had 5 less inches of vertical break, so it feels like that was a
little tighter,
harder curveball that he was throwing like that on purpose, and it was really good in this outing. So potentially another weapon here for Tanner Bibee. Back-to-back starts with double-digit strikeouts, and over his last 7 outings, 2.41 ERA, a .90 whip, 55 strikeouts over 41 innings, doing a much better job limiting walks and hard contact during that stretch. I kind of feel like this is the way things kind of even out throughout the season. Tanner Bibee should just be ranked close to where we had him entering the season. Borderline top 30 starting pitcher, at least the way he's pitching right now.
What was interesting about Bibee in this start, what we were talking about just now with Povich about how he doesn't generate swings and misses on pitches out of the zone. If I'm doing the math correctly, 19 of Tanner Bibee's 20 swings and misses came on pitches inside of the strike zone. That's wild. I don't know exactly what to make of that moving forward, but he has had a lot of trouble putting batters away this season. He's someone who, when you look at the underlying pitch level data, it seems like he should be a really good strikeout pitcher. And then his strikeout rate for the most part this season has been pretty mediocre until the last few starts. So hopefully this is the sign of him turning it around. It's a very promising stretch, super talented pitcher. I think there's a lot to be optimistic about.
I mean, he's over. What is he at now? He's almost 11K per 9 now, right? For the season.
Yeah, 7th best among qualified starting pitchers.
Yeah, remember he had 24 in his last 2 starts, though.
Mm-hmm. That helps.
Yeah.
Definitely
I can't
helps.
believe I'm looking at the rankings now. I can't believe I'm the low guy on Tanner Bibee. I know I haven't been emotionally the low guy on Tanner Bibee. So
yeah, that's interesting.
Because
I've got him 39th, and that feels pretty low.
Why do you hate Tanner Bibee?
I don't. I'm gonna move him up to 31st after this podcast, so I can be the high guy again.
Stealing our thunder. All right. Well,
there's not a lot of difference between 30 and 50 still, I think.
But great start for Tanner Bibee. Some people will point out, he was facing the Mariners. Well, guess what? Other pitchers face the Mariners, and they don't have starts like this. So great outing for him. he is another one trending up the rankings. Thanks to everyone for watching us live. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, youtube.com/fantasybaseball today. And a quick reminder that you can always listen to Fantasy Baseball Today and FBT in 5. That's our 5-minute podcast on Spotify. You can scan the QR code that will take you right to the FBT Spotify feed. Let's take our first break, and when we return, we'll hit the news and notes right after this.
There's some new players in town, and they brought the plague.
You got my attention. You don't want that. Welcome to Kingstown.
Mayor of Kingstown. New season now streaming exclusively on Paramount Plus.
Welcome back in the news and notes. Aaron Judge was not in the lineup Wednesday after getting hit by a pitch on his left hand Tuesday. X-rays and a CT scan came back negative. He's expected to avoid a trip to the IL, currently day-to-day, and was clearly unavailable completely on Wednesday because there were some big spots in the game where they could have used him as a pinch hitter, and they opted not to, which I think makes sense given the magnitude of the player with Aaron Judge. CJ Abrams.
He's very large.
Yes, big guy. TJ Abrams was scratched Wednesday due to a wrist injury he suffered on a collision Tuesday. Abrams will undergo an MRI. Walker Buehler was placed in the IL due to hip discomfort. Yeah. He was hit by a comebacker on the hip during Tuesday's start. I think it's a good refresh for him, try to get his mind right, figure out what's gone wrong, what he needs to fix, everything, and maybe he can bounce back once he returns. Yordan Alvarez has missed 2 straight with a personal issue. Jazz Chisholm was scratched from the lineup due to right hamstring tightness. Nolan Arenado left Wednesday's game after getting hit by a pitch on his right elbow. X-rays came back negative. Arenado said he expects to return on Saturday. Nolan Jones was scratched Wednesday due to an illness. Kyle Gibson was scratched from his start due to back tightness. The Cubs are designated Yan Gomes for assignment and signing Tomas Nido to replace him as the backup catcher. Tyler Black was recalled by the Brewers. Just not sure where he's going to play, how much he's going to play. In 28 games since being sent back to AAA, Tyler Black was batting .250 with 4 homers, 8 steals, and an .802 OPS. He's 15% rostered. Scott, do you have any interest in Tyler Black in deeper leagues?
Not a lot, though. Short of James Wood, I'm not sure there is a prospect call up that would generate a ton of enthusiasm from me. I guess there's a couple others. Shane Baz, if he's still considered a prospect. Noel V. Marte, obviously he's in the minors for different reasons. But anyway, Tyler Black, in those deep roto leagues, if you need some speed, maybe it could work out, but it's a big maybe.
Eduardo Rodriguez will likely begin throwing off a mound within the next week after the latest imaging on his left shoulder showed almost 100% healing. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. cut all of his hair off. Perhaps this will help him hit for power. We hope. And on Thursday,
the opposite Samson.
Yeah.
On Thursday night, you'll be able to watch the Giants take on the Cardinals at Rickwood Field, the oldest professional ballpark in the United States and the former home of the Negro League's Birmingham Black Barons.
The very first place where Willie Mays played professional baseball.
Yeah, very cool moment. Very much so. Looking forward to that. Again, you can catch that. I think it's 7:15 first pitch on Thursday night. A quick prospect update. Rather a few. Jason Dominguez is dealing with a moderate left oblique strain, which sounds like he'll miss at least 1 month of the season. And the Yankees promoted Augustine Ramirez from AA to AAA, a 22-year-old catcher / first baseman who has had a pretty massive season in the minors, batting .290, 16 home runs, 13 steals, and a .942 OPS.
Is everybody in the organization a catcher / first baseman, or just in the minors?
Yeah, they are thinking about moving Jason Dominguez. No, I'm just kidding. Let's stick with the Yankees, and it was a big night for pitching returns. Garrett Cole was solid in his first start against the Orioles. 4 innings, 2 runs allowed, 5 strikeouts, only had 6 whiffs on 62 pitches. It's right around a 10% swinging strike rate. Gave up some hard contact first start of the season. I don't know if we want to read too much into the results. I think more so than anything, we just want him to come out of the start healthy and be ready to go his next turnaround. If you're worrying about the velocity, it was down 1.6 miles per hour. This is still kind of his spring training phase, so I feel like normally we see velocity down that much early on in the season. I don't know. Maybe I'm making excuses for Gerrit Cole. What did you guys think of his first start of the season?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to take anything away from it really, because it's one start and a lot of things can happen in one start. He did not look especially sharp. He gave up a lot of hard contact. He wasn't throwing hard as hard as normal. I was debating when I was doing my big rankings update on Tuesday, he's about to come back this week. How much do I need to move up this obvious? Well, once Spencer, wait, did he go down? No, sorry. This obvious top 2 starter coming into the year before the injuries. How far do I need to move him up the rankings? And I couldn't move Cole higher than 27th, which felt wrong, but I just wanted to play it a little bit cautiously, given that this is kind of an unusual injury situation, and it's hard to tell how he's going to respond to it. It's not an elbow injury we're used to hearing about, but that's usually not good. A novel elbow injury for a pitcher in baseball. Rehab assignment looked fine. We'll see. We'll see what the next couple starts look like. I'd say if his first 4 or 5 starts go this way, then I might hit the panic button. But after one start, there's just not too much to take away from it yet.
I think the way I'd put it is, and I moved him to 25, so right around the same range.
And I have him at 24, so we're all in the same spot.
I love when that happens. We don't talk about it. I didn't look at your rankings at all, and we end up at the exact same spot. I would say this. There's not much short of a re-injury or like 7 miles per hour down on his fastball that would have moved him down. If he had come out averaging 95, 96 with his fastball, or I guess he averaged 95. He had come out average 97, 98 with his fastball and struck out 10 in 5 innings. I might have been inclined to move Gerrit Cole up a little more aggressively, but based on what we saw tonight, I think it's a holding pattern. I think expectations should be still pretty high, but obviously not necessarily what we would expect from a fully healthy Gerrit Cole.
And we will find out on tomorrow's podcast for sure if Gerrit Cole is a 2-star pitcher, but that's what it looks like right now on CBS at the Mets and at the Blue Jays for next week. So if that is the case, are you guys starting Gerrit Cole?
Yeah, of course. 2 starts.
Yeah.
All right. Bobby Miller, not so great in his return in Coors Field. Arguably the worst landing spot to come back from an injury. 6 1/3 innings, 5 runs allowed, 3 walks to 2 strikeouts. He allowed 1 homer in this one, 9 hard hits. The velocity was mostly fine. Fastball down a touch. The slider was down 1.2 miles per hour. Really just kept it simple with the pitch mix. Fastball and changeup accounted for 79% of Bobby Miller's pitches in this start. He's only 28% started, and looks like he might be at the White Sox next week. Doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah, I'll start him.
What do you guys think about the return?
I mean, obviously it wasn't great. I don't like that all of his whiffs came on the changeup.
But it's Coors Field.
One on his
so
fastball, weird. Even though he threw it 49% of the time. Coors Field, okay, yeah, that obviously makes it harder to gauge. So again, I'm not going to make a huge deal of 1 start for Bobby Miller, but I wanted it to go better.
Yeah, on the whole, I think I'm pretty encouraged by the fact that he was able to pitch as deep into the game as he did. Now, it was only 79 pitches. It was a lot of pitching to contact, whether it was on purpose or not. The 30% changeup rate, 49% fastball rate. I think the biggest thing there is it's just Coors. The ball doesn't move. Like literally the ball does not move the same way. And so, especially on breaking balls, if you can't get the same snap on your slider and curveball, you might just be better off not throwing them. So
and he basically didn't. He threw 79% fastball changeup.
It's hard, I think, in any good or bad. I think analyzing whatever happens in Coors Field is pretty much a fool's errand, right? Remember 2-3 weeks ago, Frankie Montas had that huge start at Coors Field where he threw his slider like 30% of the time, and it was this like had never thrown it more than 15% of the time in a start or something like that, and it didn't matter. He went back to not throwing his slider. He went back to being pretty mediocre right after that. Coors Field is it just belie it. I don't know if that's the right word, so I'm just going to go away from it. Don't analyze anything that happens in Coors Field is the way I'm going to say it.
Last question on Bobby Miller. Would you buy low if you can, or maybe stay away because it was a shoulder injury? And those are pretty iffy.
I'm not motivated to buy low. I mean,
yeah,
if somebody's about to drop him, but I can't imagine anybody's really like panicking about Bobby Miller after this start.
Mm-hmm.
I will say he's just one of those guys who, like, for all the hype and for all we've expected from him, his results in the majors have been pretty just okay. And so there might be a buy low opportunity. I mean, we have people ask if they could drop guys that we don't think they should ever drop all the time. So maybe there's a buy opportunity for Miller.
All right, let's get into our latest rankings, risers and fallers. Reminder that you can always find our updated positional rankings on the website, cbssports.com/fantasy/baseball/rankings. And you can also find them on the CBS Fantasy app. As usual, we'll focus on 3 players each who either moved up or down this week. And we will start with Scott. You are up.
I am up. Okay, Paul Skeens. Let's talk about him. I was pretty aggressive ranking him as soon as we learned he was coming up to the majors, but I think it's time to take it to another level. I think it's time to rank Paul Skeens like a true ace. And so that's what I've done. I've moved him up to 15.
Why do you hate Paul Skeens?
Do you have him higher than that?
SP7, baby.
Wow. Wow.
Last time we talked about him.
Way to entirely steal my thunder there with that take.
So the last time we talked about him, I think I had moved him up to 15 already. Mm-hmm. And I said it would take very little to move into the top 10 based on how bunched up everyone is. And I just screw it. He's got a 30% K minus.
Well, that's what ratio. I thought I was saying. I thought I was the one saying screw it. I got him ahead of Max Fried. No, I don't actually. I'm behind Max Fried. You have him ahead of Max Fried.
Yes.
I think the overall point is that we all have Skeens top 16 at starting pitcher. So we're pretty much all in.
And right behind him
that's a very, very interesting way of eliding the fact that apparently Frank hates Paul Skeens the most. Has SP16.
You weren't supposed to say anything.
I just want to say, like, wherever the exact number is, the reason I'm ranking him as an ace is because, like, obviously he looks amazing. His best pitch is one that wasn't even really touted in the minors.
He didn't throw it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he started throwing it this year.
Yeah. And the Pirates have already done such a good job managing his innings by basically having April serve as his spring training that I think he's going to be fine in terms of workload. I do actually have Garrett Crochet now right behind him at 16, a guy we worry a little more about the workload. But, and, Pablo Lopez has dropped behind them both at 17. Yep. So look at that. I'm covering 3 moves in 1 here. Okay, the next player I'm going to talk about is Jarren Duran, who coming into today was the 4th best. The 4th best outfielder. No, I'm sorry. I said it wrong. Jarren Duran coming into the day was the 5th best outfielder in points leagues, behind only the obvious top 4 of Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, Mookie Betts, and Kyle Tucker. Betts is obviously going to drop out of that top 4 now that he's on the IL. But Jarren Duran was the top outfielder behind them. And I imagine he's still there after the performance he had here on Wednesday. I don't rank him that high because we're ranking him at his hottest right now. He's, batting well over 300 in June. It's still a profile that doesn't generate a lot of power. So it's highly batting average dependent, at least in 5x5 leagues. I think the reason he's so high in points leagues, especially, is doubles and triples pace is huge for Jarren Duran. And obviously those count for something in points leagues in a way they don't in Roto, but it's a batting average dependent profile. A lot of speed there too. but not much home run power. And so I did move him into my top 20, but I kept him behind Stephen Kwan, who is also a batting average dependent player, who I think is going to hit for a lot more batting average. He's up to 397 after today.
Yeah.
Not that that's going to stay that high, but I think he's going to hit for a higher batting average than Jarren Duran moving forward. But top 20 now for Duran. And finally, Ryan Jeffers, a faller here. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but the last couple weeks, he's only played like every other day. And Christian Vasquez doesn't deserve to play that much, but you know what? Ryan Jeffers hasn't been hitting well enough to force his way into the lineup more either. So major playing time concerns there. The production has dropped off. I moved him from 5 to 10 in my catcher rankings, and I wonder if that's too high. I had a whole little reshuffling here. I moved Logan O'Hoppe up to 5th. So they kind of swap places in my catcher rankings. Wilson Contreras, I moved him back into the top 10 since he's going to be back from the IL soon, ahead of Ryan Jeffers. But yeah, Jeffers was the big faller there. And, in shallower one catcher leagues, I don't think he's beyond dropping if you want to pick up a hotter hand.
Yeah, I mean, the main appeal, he had been really good for most of the last year, dating back to last season, but the main appeal was how much he was playing early on. So I don't know if he's wearing down. We saw something similar from Sean Murphy last year. Those Minneapolis Springs, boy, they'll get you. I do want to add on Jarren Duran. Have you guys looked at his spray chart?
No.
It's a weird profile for a left-handed hitter. It is just the left field fence at Fenway. He's just putting dents in that thing. He's got 17 doubles at home.
Wow.
And I think all but one double this season, all but 2 doubles this season have been the opposite way. He's got 17 doubles at home, 4 on the road. His
that's
batting
smart,
average is 47 points lower at home or on the road than at home, mostly because of all those doubles. He's not running on the road, mostly because of all those doubles, I would imagine.
He's not running at home because of the doubles.
Yeah, he's not running at home. It's a really interesting profile, but on the whole, I mean, you're looking at pretty dead average plate discipline in both strikeout and walk rate this season, and better than average expected quality of contact numbers. So I think, yeah, Jarren Duran, I mean, I liked him a lot. I was drafting him everywhere. Where'd you move him in outfield?
Top 20.
Okay, yeah, I have him 17 in Roto. Probably need to move him up in points. I'm not sure exactly how high I moved him there. But yeah, lot to like about Jarren Duran right now. He's top 20 in points as well.
So do you have him ahead of or behind Riley Greene?
I believe I have him behind Riley. Just ahead of Riley Greene and Roto.
I have him ahead of Riley Greene in both formats.
Okay. I have him behind Greene, and I already said I have him behind Kwan too.
Yeah, Kwan we'll just transition there. He's one of my biggest risers. I moved him to my number 12 outfielder in Roto.
Oh, wow.
Presumably pretty similar in points. And part of it's just, 12 in points as well. And part of it's just there aren't any good outfielders. There's like 8 good outfielders right now, and 2 of them are on the IL, I believe. Mookie Betts, we've moved well below there, but Kyle Tucker may never return from this shin injury. I don't know what's going on there. He's going to return. He was supposed to, no, I'm joking. He was supposed to miss like 2 days, and it's been like 2 weeks and counting. But yeah, like Stephen Kwan, he continues to hit really well. I saw can you believe it's June 20th and Stephen Kwan is hitting 397? It's like, well, he missed a month. So, that's part of it, but he's been fantastic is the point.
His expected batting average is like mid 330s.
Yeah, 339 right now. Expected slugging percentage is actually expected ISO over 100 for the first time in Stephen Kwan's career.
He has 5 home runs in 45 games. He hit 5 home runs in 158 games last year.
Yeah,
what's funny about that is we saw stories this spring about how the Guardians wanted him to embrace striking out more for the sake of doing more damage. And you could say, oh, look, it's happening. He's doing more damage. It's not really reflected in the exit velocities. So I'm not sure if those power gains are going to sustain, but bottom line is like he's like Luis Arise level contact hitter and deserves to be treated like that. He actually, how many steals does he have? Oh, fewer steals than I thought. I was going to say he actually steals bases unlike Arise.
He's hitting for all these home runs.
No,
he look, he's not going to have 1,000 OPS. I don't like. There's probably going to be 200 points of OPS regression for Steven Kwan the rest of the way, but an 800 OPS bat in this climate is still a very, very good one, especially when it's, at the top of what has been a fantastic lineup, at least a fantastic top half of the lineup. I don't know if you guys have seen Jose Ramirez is on pace for like 150 RBI, and Josh Naylor might be on a similar pace after homering twice today. So yeah, I think there's a lot to like about Steven Kwan right now. And then,
I will say his barrel rate has
doubled
from his career rate. Yeah, it's up to
2%.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is still one of the worst marks in baseball. Fourth percentile, first percentile hard hit rate, 7th percentile average exit velocity. Steven Kwan is not a power hitter, but a version of Steven Kwan who could hit 12 home runs is, given how strong the batting average is going to be, that's a super valuable player. So I think there's a lot to like there. Everyone else I'm talking about here is a rankings faller. Jared Jones, I think, I don't know if we got too over our skis, if he's just running into some trouble and needs to work on some things, but I've got him down to SP 29. There's a lot of fungibility between, honestly, like 20 and 30. So it wouldn't take much to move him up, but we're seeing the control regress. That was the issue for him in the minors. Hasn't been getting the same whiffs. Lefties are crushing him right now. So a lot has gone wrong for Jared Jones. I still like the upside, so I don't want to bury him, but had to move him down. And then everyone's going to yell at me and whatever. It's fine. Anthony Volpe has not been very good since like the third week of the season. And the timing is very interesting because he went 3 for 4 with a walk today. Since April 16th, he is hitting 248 with a 295 on base percentage, a 378 slugging percentage. And Anthony Volpe's expected WOBA is actually worse than it was last season. Now, because of the changes he's made to his swing profile, becoming more of a line drive and all fields hitter, I think it's reasonable to suggest that he could outperform his expected WOBA after underperforming last season. But I do think we have to have a discussion about Anthony Volpe, who right now just kind of looks like a runs specialist. And that's valuable. But I'm not sure this is like a difference-making fantasy player. I'm not sure there's that much separation between Anthony Volpe and someone like Andres Gimenez if he's going to be a 250-ish hitter like he has been for most of the season. Now everybody yell at me.
Does anybody regard him as much less than Andres Gimenez? Because I mean, they're both like top 15 shortstops in my mind, borderline top 12.
Yeah. I thought everybody was more treating him like a top 10, top 12 type, and I think Gimenez is more top 15-ish, but maybe I'm wrong.
I will say it's surprising his numbers, just from as somebody who has him in a points league and knows how consistent his points production is week after week. I've got the week by week breakdown pulled up now. He's like between 15 and 25 every week. That's great. So I don't know how he's producing so many fantasy points. Yeah. He's on pace for almost 500 this year.
Yeah. In Roto leagues since April 16th, and that's a super arbitrary time span where it was basically he had a really good game on April 15th and then went hitless on April 16th. So I'll admit I'm doing an arbitrary timetable here. He's at the number 20 shortstop in Roto in that time. Maybe it's probably higher in points. The runs are certainly helping, but yeah, the pace since then, 248 average, 103 runs. That's awesome. 11 homers, 53 RBI, 25 stolen bases. I just think he's probably more of a middle infielder than a starting shortstop for fantasy, I guess.
All right. Again, that was Anthony Volpe. I will very quickly run through the 3 names that I have. Manny Machado down to my 12th ranked third baseman. And this is more so just moving names ahead of him that have produced all season long. Alec Boehm, Jordan Westberg, Spencer Steer, Michael Garcia. All 4 of those players are averaging 3+ fantasy points per game, or are top 70 players in Roto this season. Manny Machado is not doing any of those things and nowhere close to it. So maybe he turns it on at some point, but I think maybe this elbow recovery has kind of flipped his season on its head.
You did mention one player who moved down in my rankings, though. Michael Garcia has been pretty bad.
He's like averaging 3.2 fantasy points per game.
Yeah, maybe so, because it was a solid start, but 392 OPS in the month of June so far.
That's bad.
It was 650 in April. Decent May, 773, but the strikeout rate has gone up. He stopped hitting for power after he was early on in the season. I think we might have gotten fooled by Markel Garcia having a strong start to the season.
Chris, full season statistics are more predictive.
Yeah, that's true.
And right now he has 47 runs scored, 39 RBI, 17 steals.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty good player.
Yeah. He has since the 11th game of the season. So first 10 games, he was awesome. Since then, he has a 625 OPS. That's pretty bad.
It is pretty bad. I don't think Manny Machado is much better, though. I'll tell you.
No, I'm not arguing about Manny Machado versus Michael Garcia. I was off Manny Machado in the spring, and I felt pretty dumb about it early on, and now it's looking okay.
Mm-hmm. I'm keeping the faith in Machado. I haven't moved him down at all. There's just not enough in the underlying numbers to suggest he's a fundamentally different player, and I think he's going to get very hot this summer.
That is possible, but I also think the players that just moved ahead of him are also really good players. So it's more so just me trusting those guys and what they've done so far this season compared to Manny Machado. Randy Arozarena down to outfield 26 in head-to-head points, outfield 24 in Roto. Maybe he saw that I lowered him in the rankings. He had a great game here, 2 for 3 with a walk and 2 steals, actually hitting pretty well in the month of June. So maybe I jumped a little bit too quick at it, but this has been going on for like a calendar year. We just spoke about this the other day, Scott. So Randy Arozarena was someone I dropped, and someone I moved up was Ronaldo Lopez up to SP 44, and he had another solid outing here on Wednesday. 5 shutout innings, 6 strikeouts, 11 whiffs on 93 pitches. Perhaps there's an innings cap. There's a shutdown at some point, but we've said the same things about Luis Gil and Garrett Crochet, and we've moved those pitchers up much further. Deservedly so. They are better pitchers than Ronaldo Lopez, but he's been really good for most of the season. So I think he was worthy of moving up in the pitching ranks as well. Let's take our final break, and when we return, we had some pitching duels here on Wednesday. We'll talk about it right after this.
An unsub, a seasoned one, and he's leaving a calling card.
How do we find a ghost? I have a plan.
Welcome back in. We had 4 pitching duels on Wednesday.
It's time to duel.
We already spoke about Hunter Greene. He was at the Pirates. The other side, Mitch Keller was great. 7 shutout innings, 2 hits, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts in this one. And he went back to tweaking the pitch mix. That's what Mitch Keller does. He likes to tweak things around and mix up the pitch mix. And he threw his curveball more in the start, and it was a pretty good pretty good pitch for him in this one. Last 8 starts for Mitch Keller, a 1.54 ERA, 0.99 whip. Doing a much better job limiting walks and hard contact. Scott, anything to add on Mitch Keller?
I love Mitch Keller. He just defies explanation. And when he's good, he's really, really good. And he's been really good for a month and a half now. So, I'm enjoying it. I hope you are too.
Next, no, I'm not, because I don't have him anywhere, Scott. I was not in on Mitch Keller this year. Next pitching duel was Matt Waldron at Ranger Suarez. Waldron, 7 innings, 1 run, 6 strikeouts, had 8 whiffs on 104 pitches. He leaned on that knuckleball, and it was quite good in this start. Back-to-back 7-inning quality starts for Waldron. Last 8 outings, a 1.82 ERA, a .89 whip. And Ranger Suarez, 6 innings, 1 run, 4 strikeouts, had 10 whiffs on 94 pitches. 1 earned run or less in 10 of 15 starts this season. I know we've said maybe he's just locked in. He's hitting his spots. Everything is working out for Ranger Suarez. Probably going to regress. It hasn't happened yet. So maybe it still might. But yeah, it's been a obviously great season for Ranger Suarez. Chris, anything to add on Waldron versus Suarez?
I think there's probably a decent amount of regression coming for both of them, but I mean, Suarez is, I think, a top 24 starting pitcher for me now. Yeah. And maybe that's not high enough for some people, but
welcome to the club, Chris.
The skill set still does not suggest ace production. You know, the strikeout rate is fine, but probably a little inflated. I don't think he can sustain this. I think it's a low 3s ERA and good whip on a great team, and that's a really good pitcher. It's not an ace, and I don't think he will be, but he's really good.
But you used to say mid to high 3s ERA.
Sure, yeah.
And now you're saying low.
Yeah, I think we're seeing more evidence
winning you over.
And then Waldron is
I mean, that's basically my take on him too.
And then Waldron, it's not a surprise that he's pitching better when he throws his knuckleball more. I would suggest he should probably throw it even more than he does. But, you know, at 45%, it seems to be a very effective approach for him. And again, I don't think it's an ace, but mid to high 3s ERA, I think we can roll with Matt Waldron moving
This
forward.
has got to be some rare consistency for a knuckleballer, though. I mean, I haven't reviewed the game logs for every knuckleballer in history, but it's, you know, you can count the successful, like the knuckleballers who are like really impactful pitchers. It's a short list.
Yeah.
And I
3 in our lifetimes.
Yeah. So who are we talking about? R.A. Dickey,
Tim Wakefield, and I think Phil Niekro was still pitching when we were all born. Maybe not Frank, but he pitched forever.
Yeah, I mean, Phil Niekro, I almost called him Phil Knuckleball. Phil Niekro is obviously the best ever. I mean, I don't even put Tim Wakefield.
He retired the year before I was born.
I don't even put Tim Wakefield in that category because he had like 2 great seasons and for the most part was just kind of an innings eating swing man. But Waldron is, you know, he's got that velocity like Dickey had, and yeah, I think he's there. You know, I'm a little distrustful of him just because he's a knuckleballer, but I'm also excited about him.
There's an interesting range of the rankings with Hunter Brown, who had another excellent start today. Matt Waldron was great. Taj Bradley remains an enigma, but overall has been very promising so far this season. How do you rank those 3? Hunter Brown, Matt Waldron, Taj Bradley, and I'd even throw Brian Wu in there.
Yeah, I mean they're all grouped together, so I don't even know that the order matters so much. I have to check my rankings just to see. Okay, I have Bradley, Brown, and Waldron. That's the order.
What about Wu?
Wu? I don't know what to do with Wu.
Yeah, I have no. Sell.
Yeah, I'm pretty much there. Of course, that's easy to say after he has a bad start. Got 13 days off and then was bad because of concerns over the forearm. That's why he got all that time off. And then I don't think those are going away. That's what had him on the IL to begin with, right? And so I don't know what's going on with that. Obviously, he had been really effective prior to the start following the 13-day layoff, but I just don't trust him to stick around for long.
Yeah, and Wu, no strikeouts this season. It was a 20% strikeout rate coming in, throwing his fastballs like 80% of the time. I think he's arguably the most obvious sell high candidate in fantasy right now, Brian Wu.
Pitching duel number 3, you mentioned the name Taj Bradley. He was up against Joe Ryan, and Bradley went 6 innings, 2 runs, only 3 strikeouts. He allowed 10 hard hits in this game. Underlying numbers, it looks like he did not have his best stuff, but he still managed a quality start, and he's allowed 2 earned runs or less in 6 of 8 outings. Joe Ryan, on the other side, 6 innings, 1 run, 5 strikeouts, had 19 whiffs on 94 pitches. Ooh, I just realized this was a revenge game for Joe Ryan. Very nice. He has gone 6+ innings in 11 of 15 starts and has had a great season. Scott, anything to add on Taj and Joe Ryan?
Not really. Yeah, I mean, we've obviously seen better from Taj Bradley with the whiffs and the strikeouts. This Twins matchup wasn't a cupcake. So the fact he gave you a quality start, I think, is encouraging. And yeah, like I said, I have him ranked ahead of both Hunter Brown and Matt Waldron rest of seasons, slightly. So I like the upside.
And pitching duel number 4, we had Freddie Peralta up against Tyler Anderson. He can't keep getting away with this, yet he does. Freddie Peralta, 6 shutout innings, had 8 strikeouts, 18 whiffs on 101 pitches. And Tyler Anderson, 7 innings, 1 run, 5 strikeouts, had 13 whiffs on 99 pitches. The changeup, the cutter, they were both working, both awesome for Anderson. He has allowed 1 earned run or less in 9 of 15 starts. He has a 2.48 ERA with a 5.10 xFIP. That is Tyler Anderson. Chris, anything to add on him and Peralta?
Yeah, I think his xERA is near 5 as well. So it's not like he's limiting hard contact to an absurd degree. He's giving up a ton of walks, which is not what he was doing in 2022. This looks like much more of a mirage than Tyler Anderson's very good 2022. And subsequent results prove that 2022 was already a mirage for Tyler Anderson. So
I will not.
It's fine to ride it while he's going well, but
I'm not even sure of that. It's going to blow up in your face. I will not believe in Tyler Anderson, even if he's doing this till the last week of the season.
Yeah,
I will not believe in him unless the skill indicators catch up to the production. So, like, if he becomes skill-wise a different pitcher,
which they aren't.
Right. They're not, and they haven't been all season. But I'm saying if you play this back 3 months from now because I've changed my stance on Tyler Anderson, it's because he's missing a lot more bats and he's walking a lot fewer guys and all that stuff.
But like, take it one start at a time. And if you want to start him against Oakland next week, I think that's perfectly fine. And if he gives up 5 runs, I think it's also perfectly fine to drop Tyler Anderson. I also think it would just be fine to drop Tyler Anderson. If you're in one of the 20% of leagues where Hunter Brown or Taj Bradley's available, go drop Tyler Anderson.
Yes, I agree with that completely. We will put Scott's analysis to the test tomorrow when we see if Tyler Anderson is a sleeper pitcher for next week or not, going up against the Oakland A's.
I mean, he probably will be because I'm having to wade through the sludge to come up with 10 sleeper pitchers.
Yeah. No, I get that. Tyler Anderson, by the way, 74% rostered. That leads us into the waiver wire pitchers. And him along with Brian Bayo, who bounced back. I think we need to see more. Obviously, it was a really bad stretch, but a quality start at the Blue Jays. 6 innings, 2 runs, 6 strikeouts for Bayo. He's 71% rostered. Looks like he might line up for 2 starts next week. Andrew Heaney, a quality start against the Mets. 6 innings, 3 runs, 9 strikeouts. Had 15 whiffs in this one. And he did change things up through his slider a lot more, and it was awesome. So perhaps something changing here for Andrew Heaney. And Kyle Hendricks looked great in his return to the Cubs rotation up against the Giants. 5 2/3 innings, 1 run, 8 strikeouts, 14 whiffs on 75 pitches. Completely changed the pitch mix. He threw less changeups, more curveballs, more 4-seam fastballs, and it was a legit 4-pitch mix that worked very well for Kyle Hendricks. Go ahead, Chris, whatever you like to add.
I do not understand the enduring appeal of Brian Bayo in the eyes of the fantasy baseball community. This was a guy who was never a top 100 prospect, has not had an ERA below 4 at the major league level.
Who is this? This is Bayo?
Brian Bayo does not get strikeouts, does not really have great control, gives up a lot of home runs. Why is this guy 71% rostered? Like,
I don't know.
Like, if you didn't drop him yet, then as a result of this game, okay, I guess you don't drop him, but I don't get it. I don't understand what, like, he hasn't been useful at all for fantasy for the last 2 months.
There was a time last year and probably the year before when I got pretty excited about him, and I wonder if that's just had a permeating effect. Like sometimes, I don't want to overestimate my influence or anything, but usually I underestimate it. So I had him as a bust this year. I've been out on him for a while, and obviously his performance so far, this start notwithstanding, has not won me back over for all the reasons you went through.
Yeah, like the underlying numbers aren't great. I think he's fine, but I think he's probably a number 4 starter in real life, and that's not usually a guy who holds a 71% roster rate with an ERA over 5.
Yeah. No, he's been bad, and I liked him as a sleeper coming into the season. He has a great changeup, and there was talks of him working on his slider with Pedro Martinez in the offseason, and
it's been better.
So I thought there was a chance, but I've had him outside my top 80 starting pitchers for the past, 2-3 weeks, something like that. So like we said earlier, if any of those like Taj Bradley, Hunter Browns are still out there, obviously you should drop Brian Bayo for any of those names if you could. Was there any interest in any of the other names? Andrew Heaney, Kyle Hendricks?
I mean, not yet. Let's keep an eye on Andrew Heaney because 2 of his last 3 starts have been this way with a bunch of whiffs. Actually, it's 2 of his last 4 starts. I must have missed a start in there. So, there's still a lot of bad mixed with the good. But if his fastball and slider continue to play up like they did in this start, and I know they were up about a mile per hour, then, there's a chance he could turn into something fantasy relevant again. But we're ways from that.
Kyle Hendricks was pretty useful last year. Like, I don't think he's just dead.
Well, I read the recap of this start because I wanted to see, okay, he had been in the bullpen. Was he working on stuff that then he was able to put into practice here in his return to the rotation? And that's not the impression I got from the quotes. Apparently he was just throwing whatever Miguel Amaya called, and he was surprised by how many curveballs Amaya called and how many fastballs up in the zone, which Kyle Hendricks' fastball is not the sort that's supposed to play up in the zone. So it may have just been an element of surprise there. I'm not interested.
I'm a little bummed that he's not in the bullpen anymore just because it was really fun to watch him come out of the pen and just really ramp up and hit like 88, like really hot, just max effort.
Some waiver wire hitters. David Hamilton continues to produce 2 for 5 with an RBI and his 30th steal. Last 31 games, he's batting .330 with 3 homers, 18 runs, and 16 steals. 16 steals in 31 games. That is awesome stuff for David Hamilton, who has 350-plus steal seasons in the minors. Zach Geloff has homered 2 days in a row and is hitting better in June, batting .245, 4 homers, 3 steals in .820 OPS. And Brendan Donovan looks to be heating up. Last 14 games, .309 batting average, 2 homers, 8 RBI, 1 steal. How would you rank Hamilton, Geloff, and Brendan Donovan?
I mean, you got to put Hamilton at the top right now. He's just been so prolific. They moved him up to number 2 in the order. I suspect there'll be regression in batting average, and obviously sitting against left-handers isn't great, but he's providing so many stolen bases, and I don't want to get burned by writing him off the way I did Bryce Terang. So I'm gonna say Hamilton's the clear number 1 here. Geloff, of course, has more upside, but it's 2 games where he's showing it, and I just need to see a lot more. And Donovan's whatever.
Yeah, I would rank them in that order as well. Hamilton, Geloff, Donovan. Is it a hot take to say I'd rather have Hamilton than Ceddanne Rafaela?
That was my next question.
No, I rank Hamilton ahead of Rafaela.
Okay.
Though I like the way Rafaela is trending.
I think we're all in agreement there. The only thing I worry about with David Hamilton is, will he play every single day against lefties? Because he has not been good against lefties so far in his
career. He hasn't played much against them.
Yeah. But the way he's hitting right now and the way he's running, I think he absolutely is the top option of those names. 2 outfielders. Jorge Soler looks like he's coming around 1 for 4 with a grand slam, his 9th home run. And in June, he's batting .298, 3 homers, 14 runs, a .929 OPS. And Miguel Andujar keeps hitting 3 for 4 with a run and RBI. He is up to a .330 batting average, only 2 homers, a .780 OPS. Who do you guys prefer between Soler and Andujar?
Soler.
Yeah.
Would you drop Brent Rooker for either? Because last 21 games before this one, he had a multi-hit game here on Wednesday. Rooker was batting .182 with a .645 OPS and a 43% strikeout rate.
I think dropping Rooker for Soler is probably fine.
It's fine, but I think I'd rather have Rooker. They're not dissimilar. It's just Soler gets hurt all the time, and I'm sure Rooker will heat up again. And he's the sort of player who's going to look bad when he's cold, but we've seen a year and a half of good power hitting production from him.
It should be sophomore now, right?
What's up?
Don't worry about it. It's fine. It was a bad joke.
You were turning Rooker into rookie and saying,
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
That's all it was.
All right,
Stretch.
we're at the 1 hour mark, so I'm just going to bounce around.
There's so much rundown left, Frank. What were you doing?
What were you guys doing talking about the same players for 5 minutes straight? And I was just trying to get through the rundown.
God, we haven't even spent 15 minutes on Garrett Crochet yet.
We've spent.
And it's time to feed the cats. What's going on here? There's so much going on. Anyway, I had some hitter questions. Basically, do you buy what's happening with any of these players? And I realized it's a 1-game sample for Sean Murphy, who went 4 for 4 with a double dong. But it has been a bad season for him. Very small sample size, obviously derailed by injury. Wyatt Langford, he, since returning, last 19 games, .275 batting average, 1 homer, 13 RBI, 6 steals. And Jackson Merrill, last 12 games, .333, 5 homers, 2 steals. I guess with the latter two is, are you buying in on those two? And with Sean Murphy, what has gone wrong this season?
Well, I think he's spent so much of it hurt, first of all, and not as consistent playing time as you'd like for a player of his caliber. Everything looks awful on a StatCast page. Exit velocity's down, the plate discipline's worse, all the expected stats horrible. But, you know, he was good his last season in Oakland. He was great his one season with the Braves, and he just had a game where he homered twice and hit 3 balls in excess of 106 miles per hour. So I'm hopeful he's coming around. I didn't move Ryan Jeffers behind Murphy, but just based on this one game in those shallow one catcher leagues where I said you could consider dropping Jeffers, I think it would be fine to drop him for Murphy right now if Murphy happens to be available. I'm actually not sure what his roster rate is.
I think it's like 88%. I never moved Jeffers ahead of Murphy. I still have Murphy as a top 10 catcher. So I have not really moved him much at all since he got healthy. I think he's off, but I think he'll be good.
Yeah. Merrill, I will point out that during this stretch where he's homered 5 times in 7 games. Wow. 5 times. He has 8 home runs all season. He's homered 5 times in 7 games. He's put the ball in the air 62% of the time, which on the one hand is kind of necessary for this. Like it's an essential cause of the symptom, right? I don't know if that makes sense, but you get what I'm saying. Like you're not going to hit homer 5 times in 7 games unless you're putting the ball in the air a lot. But that's what he needs to do to keep hitting home runs. His spray angle, his fly ball rate, none of that was optimized for power, and that's been an issue dating back to the minors. So if it's the start of a trend, okay, maybe we're onto something with Jackson Merrill, but it's just way too early to say that.
For what it's worth, it was starting to turn around in the second half of last season at AA, and so I'm buying Jackson Merrill just generally. I think he's a super talented hitter. I don't think he's going to be a huge power threat, but if he can be a 20 homer pace guy, I think it's a really, really, really valuable skill set. So I like Jackson Merrill quite a bit.
Some quick leftovers. I'm going to throw 5 pitchers your way, and you let me know if anything stands out. 3 of them pitched pretty well. Hunter Brown, Garrett Crochet, Cole Reagans. 2 of them, not so much. Subpar outings for Kevin Gausman and Tarek Skubal. Anything that stood out for Skubal, Gausman, Reagans, Crochet, Hunter Brown?
Yeah, I really could not find anything to get concerned about with Skubal. And I know it's 3 of his last 5 outings, 4 earned runs. The 3 of his 3 worst outings this year have come in his last 5 outings. So I understand why some people might be wringing their hands over him, but I'm just not seeing anything. I think, you know, he ran into a couple homers in this start against a lineup that's heating up. And I think he's going to be fine. Still got a ton of whiffs. The pitches, the profile of the pitches still looks similar. I think he's fine. Gausman,
mid.
Yeah.
He might be. I'm losing faith in Gausman rather rapidly.
I moved him down to SP 36, and honestly, that doesn't feel low enough. Like, I think part of it is just we've seen now 3 different times, I think, where he's had a double-digit strikeout effort or maybe a 9 strikeout effort at least. And every single time, it's just led to nothing. And so I kind of just think we're at the point with Kevin Gausman where, yeah, he's still capable of those flashes, but doing it consistently is not part of his skill set right now. And given the shoulder and the velocity being down and just the way his fastball is getting hit, I just don't see much reason to be excited about him.
All right. One hitting left over I wanted to mention was Josh Naylor, who had a pretty massive game, 3 for 4 with a double dong and 4 RBI. He's still batting just 237. The XBA is 272. So I think the batting average will get better. His BABIP is 214. That just seems way too low. I mean, the line drive rate is down a bit. Ground balls are up a bit, but it doesn't explain why the BABIP is that low for Josh Naylor. So I would expect a better batting average, and obviously everything else has been amazing. The home runs, the RBI, and obviously the rest of the counting stats with Naylor.
Can I comment on one player real quick?
Sure.
Who we have to skip over here? Dansby Swanson. He had a sock and a shoe on Tuesday and then homered again on Wednesday. Hopefully, if you lost Mookie Betts, you targeted him in a buy low trade because he might have a month here where he kind of produces in a Mookie Betts sort of way. Seems to be heating up.
All right, some bullpen updates for the Pirates. David Bednar pitched a clean 9th for his 16th save. For the Padres, Robert Suarez bounced back from his blown save on Tuesday. He struck out 1 for his 18th. For the Cubs, Hector Neris getting a few days off after a pretty rough stretch for him. It was Colton Brewer who got the 9th with a 1-run lead. He walked 2 but picked up his first save. On Tuesday, it was Keegan Thompson who picked up the save for the Cubs. For the Nationals, Kyle Finnegan struck out 2 for his 21st save. That's tied for the second most in baseball. For the Orioles, Craig Kimbrell got the 9th with a 1-run lead. He gave up exactly 1 run. He took his 4th blown save, but wound up with the win. For the Rays, P. Fairbanks unavailable because of that hand injury he suffered earlier in the week. Phil Maton got the 10th inning with a 1-run lead. He struck out 1 for his 2nd save. For the Rangers, Kirby Yates picked up his 11th. For the Astros, Josh Hader picked up his 10th. And for the Brewers, Trevor McGill. I so badly wanted to say Tyler McGill. I don't know.
I type Trevor McGill every time I'm writing about Tyler McGill.
Trevor McGill.
Remember when I used to always say Austin Nola for Aaron Nola? That was the most embarrassing.
Trevor McGill picked up his 15th save, and he has been money for the Brewers.
Hey, I think you left out the most concerning relief performance of all from Wednesday.
What is that?
Clay Holmes of your New York Yankees. It's been
pretty bad.
Been giving up some runs here. I think 5 in his last 3 outings. Took the loss, I believe, in this one, right?
Yeah.
And his strikeout rate is not closer caliber, and we've seen bumps in the road from him every year.
Yeah, what was interesting in this one, he'd gotten way too sinker heavy recently, and he went completely the opposite direction today. Only threw 5 of them on 18 pitches. Did not solve the issues that he's been having of late. I think he's fine. I think Clay Holmes is really good. I'm not too concerned. But yeah, it's been a little bit of a rough patch, and Yankees fans are not reacting well.
I mean, the bullpen is the biggest weakness for the
Yeah.
Yankees pretty clearly. And I could see them upgrading from Holmes at the deadline. I don't know who exactly that would be, but I could see it happening.
How much is too much for Mason Miller? Because that is
Yeah, I don't think that's what's going to happen, but
probably what makes the most sense. I've heard them like linked to Tanner Scott peripherally, but that's probably more just a lefty matchup setup guy.
Some more teams need to drop out of the race because, like,
yeah,
all but 2 teams in the NL are in it. Basically, all but 3 teams.
That's kind of the problem. Yeah.
To stream or not to stream for Thursday, and yeah, not the greatest day. If you had to choose, I would say Spencer Arrighetti at the White Sox, Logan Allen against the Mariners. Zach Littell and Simeon Woods Richardson are facing each other.
I think those 2 might be the best, and that's damning with faint praise.
Yeah, Littell's been so bad recently. He might be the one who loses his job to Shane Baz here soon. I don't want to start any of them. Andre Payante. That's always my go-to when I don't want to start anybody. He's going against the Giants. He'll get a lot of ground balls. Maybe he'll get a quality start out of him.
Well, if you thought Thursday was bad, here's Friday. Not good. Jose Quintana at the Cubs, Andrew Abbott versus the Red Sox, Trevor Rogers versus the Mariners, DJ Hers at the Rockies, Colin Ray at the Padres.
I wish it wasn't at the Rockies for DJ Hers.
He might be my pick anyway. He might be my pick anyway. He's fastball changeup at Coors Field. That could work.
I could see a good Trevor Rogers start, but I'm not expecting it.
DJ Hers at Colorado Friday is the ultimate boomer bust play. Like, I could see him striking out double digits and allowing 2 hits, or I could see him being pulled after 2 innings because he allowed 3 homers and 8 runs.
Yep. I agree with that.
And I agree as well. We are going to wrap there for Scott and Chris. I am Frank. Thanks as always for tuning in to Fantasy Baseball today. Please make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify. And we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.